各位，长期以来，西方都营造一种中国制造就是粗制滥造。然而，随着发展，中国产品已经逐渐成为优质实惠的代名词，高端制造业也在世界站稳了脚跟。如今，从 5G、智能翻译眼镜到占全球2/3份额的绿能科技，中国正以无可匹敌的产业链优势和创新速度，逼得美国科技巨头无路可走。今天，小满带大家听听那些普通人对中国制造的看法。
Is this not worth celebrating and learning from? Do you think China's rise is something that we should look at as an opportunity rather than a threat?
China is actually the main manufacturing hub in the world, like the entire world.
Despite iPhone being available in China, a lot of these Chinese brands aren't available in the US because the United States government has cited concern.
I made a video talking about how I'm going to get a Xiaomi phone instead of an iPhone for my next purchase, and it's doing the rounds right now.
If a brand manufactures in China, their clothes are probably trash.
There's a stereotype that refuses to die. Made in China means cheap, low quality, disposable. But the people who still believe that are carrying a mental map of the world that's at least 2 decades out of date. Because the same made in China label that used to mean a broken toy now means the phone in your pocket, the electric car in your neighbor's driveway, and the clothes on some of the best dressed people in the world.
If a brand manufactures in China, their clothes are probably trash, is what I would say if I was uninformed and knew nothing about quality. There's a growing sentiment that everything made in LA, Japan, Italy is superior to made in China, yet some of your favorite brands actually produce in China. The made in China hate was never really about Shein or AliExpress, but because in 2026, anyone can hop on Alibaba, send a manufacturer a picture, and call themselves a brand without knowing anything about how to create clothes. And as a consumer, you receive a poorly constructed garment because the factory was given no other instructions. But quality isn't determined by where it's made, but how it's made. The fabric composition, trims, seams, finishing, and washing are all controllable variables. And with cities like Guangzhou, where the supply chain and machinery allows for quick turnarounds to make practically anything, why would you not choose China? If it's a matter of ethics, nowhere is free of labor exploitation. You have brands like Anderson Bell and Visvim that produce items in China, and you have Chinese brands like Simple Project, Nullus, Wrote that are all making exceptional products. So the next time you're turned off by the Made in China label, ask yourself why.
So a lot of people still believe that made in China means it's fake. And to be quite frank, I don't blame them, because growing up, those are the type of beliefs that we instilled in us through the mainstream media and the brands that we built right in front of us. So now that there's so much products on the market, now that there's so much cheaper products on the market, it's easy for somebody to say, no, but this is fake. But what people are actually missing out on is that China is actually the main manufacturing hub in the world, like the entire world. Everything, almost everything is coming from China. It doesn't matter whether it's your clothes, your sneakers, accessories, jewelry, gadgets, electronics, appliances, literally everything is being manufactured in China. And coming from someone who literally talks to people who are actively traveling to China, most of these products are different grades. There's no such thing as fake. If you'd actually go to China, there's no such thing as fake. It's different grades. Even if it's a sneaker, it has different grades, and they give you a product based on your budget. So the sooner people understand this, the sooner they're going to stop missing out on pretty much good deals, and actually save some money in the process, because made in China does not necessarily mean that it's fake, because everything, even your favorite brands, are shipping all the way from China, but they won't tell you that. And if you think I'm wrong, show us their factory.
Let's start with the most obvious example, the iPhone. Your iPhone, if you have one, was assembled in China. The vast majority of the world's smartphones, from Apple to Samsung to Xiaomi, are produced in Chinese factories. They aren't cheap. They aren't low quality. They're the most advanced consumer devices on Earth. The irony is that even Apple, the ultimate symbol of premium American design, depends on Chinese manufacturing to produce its flagship product. And Chinese consumers have high expectations. When the iPhone 17 in China was scratched, it went viral on Weibo with over 40 million views. Chinese buyers expected perfection because they know China can deliver it.
I just think it is so interesting that iPhones, which are from a US brand, are available in pretty much every other global market. However, some of the most advanced phones in the tech space are either banned from the United States entirely, or they are so heavily restricted that they are unusable to us. And I say this because I posted this video a couple of weeks ago. That was literally just me talking about being bored of iPhones. And I have been an iPhone user my entire life. I got the very first iPhone when it came out. I have not had another phone since. And I got so much feedback in the comment section that prompted me to kind of look into the phone and the tech space a little bit more, especially on a global scale. And I feel very compelled to share some of what I learned because I feel like it validates a lot of what I was saying in my original video and also validates what a lot of people were saying in my comment section. And first and foremost, iPhones are available in Europe, available in China, available in a bunch of teeny tiny little Pacific islands that I can't remember. Whereas brands like these, which I am not going to embarrass myself by trying to pronounce, are either banned in the United States or they are very heavily restricted to the point of not being usable. And you know, these are the brands that pioneered like the foldable phone, which Samsung, which is another really popular tech brand in the United States, didn't follow suit until 2019, and Apple will not be following suit until 2026. These are phones who have up to 200 times zoom and generative AI that is so good it makes your pictures look professional grade as you are taking them. These are phones that can charge from 0 to 100 in 15 minutes and have large enough battery packs that their battery life lasts days. And why I find this so interesting is because I feel like this is an issue these are a lot of issues that iPhone users have been complaining about for the last decade. And I think it is so interesting that this technology is available. It is just not available to us. And why is that? It is national security concerns. Despite iPhone being available in China, a lot of these Chinese brands aren't available in the US because the United States government has cited concerns about these companies collecting US data and sharing it with other companies or their government, which is an issue that is so complex. I am not going to speak on it because I don't know enough about it. But I just think it is so interesting that this technology that we have been begging for, it is available. It's just not available to us. And all that to say, there's nothing wrong with iPhone. I had a lot of people in my comment section in my original video complaining about me dogging on iPhone, which that's interesting. But it's got a seamless ecosystem, which I applaud them for. It is user-friendly, it is reliable, and that is great if that is something you want. But I don't think it's unfair, especially now that I know what I know, to express interest in wanting a little bit more from our phones.
I made a video talking about how I'm going to get a Xiaomi phone instead of an iPhone for my next purchase, and it's doing the rounds right now. But what is really like bringing it to the front of my mind is the fact that there's so many people that would want a Chinese phone but can't have one because our government is literally banning them here in our market because they would outcompete all of our current brands. Like, oh, Apple, you sleep with one fucking eye open. You hear me? Because that's crazy. Like, it just really, really, really makes me think about how limiting capitalism is within our current country. Like,
do you want to know why Chinese stuff is so cheap? And cheap is an interesting word. Let me tell you about quality first. First of all, to answer the question, we are designed, not just Chinese products, but every major industry, every product that we see, it is designed to not last long. It's designed that way. There's a reason we release a new iPhone every year. You don't need a new iPhone every year. There's a reason why your car doesn't last more than 5 years, 10 years. There's a time, and it's really, I want to say easy, but we can do it. We can make an engine last 10, 15, 20 years, no problem. 200, 300, a million miles, we can make it happen. We don't do it because we're living in this system where that does not produce capital, where it does not produce money and continuously ARR, MRR, whatever metrics you want to measure. It's no benefit to sell something that lasts forever. That's the reason. So, anyways, now you know. And it's sad.
I love what China doing. Keep on exposing these big brands. I just saw a video of this lady saying that, Lululemon, those leggings that y'all are paying $100 for, $5, $6 over there. Like, they so petty because now the suppliers are saying, hey, y'all can just come to us directly. You ain't even got to do all that. Don't go to Alibaba. You come right to us. And those wedding bands that y'all are paying thousands of dollars for, you can get that same wedding band for $2. And he really think he doing something with these tariffs. Like, you ain't doing nothing but just exposing yourself and exposing this country. Like, this back and forth mess that he's doing, he's just causing such a big mess. And you can tell that they're getting scared now, because now all of a sudden they are saying, hey, well, you know what? It's not going to be on electronics anymore. Not on the electronics, because they saw that Apple went over there and took them phones and flew them back over here. They said, oh, not us. I hope that this is the end of the whole knockoffs conversation. Like, it's all coming from.
Here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Western media has spent years telling consumers that made in China is unsafe, unreliable, or a threat. The version 1.0 of the narrative was Chinese products are cheap and dangerous. When that became impossible to maintain, the narrative shifted to version 2.0. It's not the product that's unsafe, it's the threat to national security. But if Chinese products are so bad, why are Western companies buying them? Why are American consumers ordering directly from Chinese sellers despite tariffs that can reach 145%? According to one U.S. consumer report, an American buying a product from China might face shipping costs more than the product itself, but they're still doing it because the quality and price are still better. The reality is that the West isn't protecting consumers. It's protecting domestic industries. The tariffs, the propaganda, the stereotypes, they're designed to keep American companies competitive against a Chinese manufacturing sector that has simply gotten better. Chinese manufacturers aren't just cheaper. They're more efficient, more flexible, and increasingly more innovative.
Literally, Sean is speaking Chinese to me, and I can see the translation right through the glasses. Say something again, baby.
So, 你下午有什么打算?
When are you going to do this? What are you going to do this afternoon? Wow! The way I see it is like this kind of black background, and everything is neon green. And then there are some signs of the battery and the time in the bottom. I need to buy this. This is so cool. Do you have other styles of the frame? They don't have other styles of the frame.
这个那个电池有多少时间?
He's asking her now about how long is that battery. This is hours, but if it's intermittent use, you can get up to 8 hours. I just read this in my glasses. This brand has a lot. Pressure test. The one here's eye. There's translation, there are prompts and pronunciation.
Oh, she's already heard her.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
reading the translation.
I was translating.
She's speaking.
I was trying to send you, but you already got some translation.
Wow, let me see if I can see through. No, you can't see anything because it's all in this. Wow, so cool.
How is this weight compared to your Ray-Ban?
These are much lighter, much lighter than the Ray-Bans.
China has lifted over 900 million people out of poverty in the last 50 years, yet the West continues to see it as a threat rather than a country to learn from. I just read Cambridge development economist Jostein Haug's work where he describes this as Western hegemonic anxiety. The idea that China's rise is seen as a problem to manage and not a success to celebrate because it disrupts the existing hierarchy where wealthy Western nations sit at the top. I studied economics in the West for 6+ years and was taught that free markets and liberal democracy, what mainstream economics calls good institutions, lead to growth. China opening up its market was often presented as proof that free markets work. I believed that China became successful because it adopted these institutions, but reading Haug, I realized I was wrong. China actually kept a great degree of control in the state's hand and stayed Leninist in structure. It grew quickly because of this, not in spite of it. Let's first look at China's achievements over the past 50 years. Since 1990, China lifted 900 million people out of extreme poverty. This is roughly 60% of all global poverty reduction during this time. Despite having a GDP per capita that is only 1/6 that of the US, it managed to achieve near universal access to electricity, housing, transportation, and mobile connectivity for a population of 1.4 billion people. It now has comparable, if not higher, life expectancy than the US, broader basic healthcare coverage, and fewer people living in poverty in absolute terms. Lastly, it now dominates in clean energy manufacturing, producing 2/3 of the world's solar panels, wind turbines, and EVs. This is unprecedented. Never throughout history have we seen a country this big grow this fast. When people talk about China, they often go, yeah, this growth is very impressive, but China is not a liberal democracy and it has no independent labor unions. They take all the good parts and reject the bad. But Hawke says you can't separate these two when analyzing China's growth. To understand China's rise, we have to look at it as a whole and examine the underlying system that produced it. Marxism has been the official ideology of the ruling party of China since Mao. After Mao's death, Deng came into power. He saw that China was really poor, while other nations like South Korea and Taiwan, who pursued state capitalism, were getting rich. His conclusion was that China needed to do something similar. Instead of adopting a Western-style free market, Deng introduced controlled liberalization, a system where markets opened selectively but always under strong state direction. To give you an idea of what this looked like, to attract foreign investment, there was a requirement for state-owned enterprises to go into joint ventures with foreign companies. Key sectors, especially finance, remain state-controlled. To this day, most banks are state-owned. The state controls capital flows very strictly. The exchange rate is set by the state, not an independent central bank. Now, examining the political system requires us to take off our Western liberal democracy lens and ask questions like, are the people happy? It is considerably more meritocratic than many Western democracies. Their system does a great job at getting competent people into power that actually deliver on economic development and on people's needs. You can't buy your way into office in China. Politicians spend years demonstrating competence at the provincial level before being considered for more senior roles. Even starting in high school, only students who are at the top of their class are invited to join the party, but the perception of a government that delivers on well-being is high. A recent survey even found that perceptions of democracy in China are higher than in the US, UK, and France. Whether you're a fan of China's governance model or not, you can't deny that it is characterized by high levels of legitimacy and commitment to delivering economic development for its people. But you can't cherry-pick the growth and reject the system that produced it. So why does the West react to China's rise with so much anxiety? It's because China succeeded on its own terms rather than the West's. Rather than seeing this as a threat, I want to argue that China's rise is actually good for the world. Not because I want it to replace the US, though there is an argument that China would be a more benevolent superpower, but because its rise pushes us toward a multipolar world. Think about it. The past 3 decades, we've seen continuous military interventions, regime changes, coercive sanctions across the global south, countless violations of the UN Charter and international law. This has remained unchecked precisely because we live in a unipolar world where the US does not need to compromise with anyone. It can invade Iraq with no blowback internationally. It can provide unconditional support to Israel. The emergence of China as a genuine geopolitical counterweight to the US is the beginning of a world in which the rules are not written exclusively by Washington, and power is not concentrated in a single country. This would give weaker states more leverage. For example, if countries went to the IMF and didn't want to have to do structural adjustment programs, they could instead go to China. When a poor country stops being poor, when hundreds of millions of people escape material deprivation and are able to lead longer, healthier, more dignified lives, is this not worth celebrating and learning from? Do you think China's rise is something that we should look at as an opportunity rather than a threat?
Made in China no longer means cheap. It means competitive.
It means advanced.
It means the products that are shaping the future, from electric cars to AI models to the phones in our pockets. The Western media's narrative about Chinese quality was never about protecting consumers. It was about protecting Western industries from competition they couldn't beat. The tariffs, the warnings, the stereotypes, they were designed to make you believe that American products are better, even when the evidence says otherwise. Question the label. The next time you see Made in China, don't assume it's cheap. Ask who told you that. Ask who benefits from you believing that. And then go look at the reviews, the comparisons, the real-world data. You might find that the best product for your money has a label you were taught to distrust. China isn't the world's factory anymore. It's the world's innovator. And the sooner Americans realize that, the sooner they can stop paying more for less. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button.
The truth is out there.
We're just the ones willing to say it.
从最初被西方主流媒体洗脑的傲慢与偏见，到亲眼目睹中国科技与工业爆发后的震撼，再到最后直面美国制度失灵的深层焦虑，这不仅是一场关于产品质量的讨论，更是一场西方知识分子对自身意识形态的痛苦反思。就如视频中引用的剑桥学者的观点，西方政客和媒体长期炮制中国低质论和地缘威胁论，本质上都是一种西方霸权焦虑症。他们无法接受一个不走西方宪政老路， 不搞盲目私有化的国家，竟然能依靠强大的国家宏观导向和选择性市场开放，在短短几十年内让9亿人脱贫，甚至在新能源、电动汽车和 AI 硬件领域反超西方，这狠狠扇了西方主流经济学一记耳光。这几位外国博主的清醒发声，恰恰证明了地缘政治的引力场正在发生不可逆转的转移。美国越是挥舞关税大棒，大倒科技封锁，就越是在全世界面前暴露其玩不起的虚弱本质。资本主义所谓的自由市场，在面对中国全产业链的绝对碾压时，最终只能退化成闭关锁国的保护主义。这场博弈的本质早已不是中国制造与美国制造的贴台之争，而是单极霸权与多极世界格局的终极较量。过去30年，华盛顿倚仗单极霸权肆意挥舞制裁大棒，干涉他国主权，而今天，一个在经济、科技和地缘上具备强大抗衡能力的中国，正在成为全球秩序的稳定器。它给全球南方国家提供了除西方休克疗法之外的全新选择。